Coming up on Network Africa. The DR Congo government says it cannot conduct presidential elections this year because it's too expensive. Plus, the closure of 2 independent media houses sparked protests in Togo. And Cameroon confirms a bird flu outbreak in the north. Thanks for joining us on Network Africa. I am BC Adebayo. The DR Congo government says it will not be able to afford an agreed presidential election this year due to its high cost. According to the budget minister, Pierre Kangodia, the cost of organizing the poll is $1.8 billion, which is too expensive. Last year, the government and the opposition agreed that new elections would be held by the end of 2017. This comes after President Joseph Kabila's final mandate ran out in November 2016. Mr. Kabila's opponents have accused him of repeatedly delaying the poll in order to remain in power. Let's get more on this story from a political analyst, Chukwuemeka Eze, who joins us live on the program. Welcome to the program, Chukwuemeka.
Thank you.
Now, what do you make of the DR Congo's government's position that it cannot afford to hold elections this year?
What I make of this is continuous maneuverability of Joseph Kabila. He had never wanted to hand over power, and he's capitalizing on cost of election. Remember, he did not talk about cost of election in his first term, in his second term. Now that it is time for him to hand over, he's now talking about cost of election. So what I make of it is that Kabila is not ready to go. He wants to perpetuate himself in power, and he wants to continue the dastard history of the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country where there had never been smooth transfer of power from independence in 1960. So I'm not surprised that Kabila is playing this game.
But apart from President Kabila not wanting to go, do you think the death of the opposition leader Etienne Tshisekedi could also have emboldened the government to make this announcement?
I don't think the matter is an issue of death of Etienne Tshisekedi. Because even when Etienne Tshisekedi contested the election, he was frustrated. So the government had always acted with impunity, whether Tshisekedi was present or not. So I don't think his death has accentuated the government's action. Kabila from day one didn't want to go. In fact, when he negotiated with the Catholic Church that he would hand over to an interim government in March, many people were skeptical. Many analysts were skeptical. And Kabila has confirmed that the skeptics were actually right.
Now let's look at the country's stability and the economy. Is this decision likely to have any effect on the country's economy and stability?
Certainly, it's going to continue the impoverization of the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The violence will continue. More rebellious groups will arise, and the confusion will continue. So I think the country will sink deeper and deeper. And it will even suffer sanctions from Western countries and some other countries of the world. So I foresee a situation whereby the Democratic Republic of Congo will be in turmoil, and Joseph Kabila will either go in peace or go in pieces.
But how much more can he hold these elections from holding?
I think he can hold it. I believe that Kabila will still be on that seat in the next 3 years, at least, because he has succeeded. The one that we give him tough time, I think he has put him in prison. So I don't see the factious opposition being able to take up, especially when some of them are just bread and butter politicians. So there is fear that at the end of the day, for the stability of the Democratic Republic of Congo, many people will say, let Kabila continue. So I foresee a situation Kabila will still be in power for the next few years.
But if you think that he probably might remain in power for the next 3 years, is it that it's not possible for any other opposition to come up, apart from the late Estienne Tshisekedi? Is it possible for any other opposition to come up between now and the time that you have projected, for instance?
There is possibility that an opposition candidate can come up. But the problem is that Democratic Republic of Congo is very vast. So for any opposition candidate that will have sufficient wealth to traverse the whole of Democratic Republic of Congo and campaign, even in the face of threats by rebels, and for some other reasons bordering on security, I doubt whether there is any opposition candidate that will campaign through and through without Kabila putting him in prison, without attack, without rebellion. I doubt somebody who has sufficient resources. So Kabila is even working to destabilize the opposition. So I foresee a situation, except Kabila decides to leave, there might not be any opposition candidate that might actually remove Kabila from that position.
Chukwuemeka is a political analyst. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, the government of Burundi says it will not attend peace talks scheduled to resume in Tanzania today, although the main opposition alliance has confirmed its participation. The talks are meant to find an end to a violent political crisis that began in 2015 after President Pierre Nkurunziza said he would seek a third term, a move opponents said violated the constitution. Later, both parties agreed on a peace deal that ended an ethnically charged civil war. The government has repeatedly accused the UN of bias against it after several human rights groups have said the security forces and ruling party have committed abuses. The violence in Burundi has alarmed people in a region where memories of the 1994 genocide in neighboring